Hey everybody, YouTube, welcome to another video. I just wanted to introduce this, I'm going to call it the new project car because it essentially is, although I've owned this thing for about 3 years now, almost 3 years going on. It's a 91 Honda Civic Si, or excuse me, CRX, can't believe I said that, CRX Si. It's last year, this body style. USDM, of course, as you can see. My dream was always to do the JDM front-end conversion or get my hands on a right-hand drive EF8, EF9, EE8, etc. But since they're about quadruple in price now, it's kind of a dream that is slowly dying. I don't want to spend 25, 30 grand for mint example. No thanks. So this is what I got. And I don't regret it. It's really clean for what it is, in my opinion. Mostly all there. And, you know, what more can you ask for in a 30-year-old car? Literally, 30 years old. It does have its problems, and I'll be addressing those. But I wanted to kind of go over the initial condition that I received it in after having it at the mechanic for 2.5 years, which was... in 3 words, a severe disappointment. I dropped it off at this guy's shop who I thought was a buddy of mine, and we had been friends for literally going on 20 years, and I thought I could trust this guy. And he did some things that were good, but man, there were a lot of things he didn't do that I expected to, and so there's some disappointment there. I'll show you a couple of examples, actually. He, in one message, told me that the subwoofer box was a work of art, quote unquote, work of art. And that's one way to describe it. As you can see, the woofer's mounted kind of cockeyed. You know what this box really is? This is a hoard out prefab box that he reused for this application. You can tell because this is not centered. Why wouldn't that be centered? Well, I'll tell you why. Because the original hold-to-mounted woofer was probably right here, and he had to cock it because those were hored out and blown out. This is not a work of art. It's a work of something. It's pretty much the basic bitch edition box. If you went to a stereo shop and said, hey man, can you give me a basic bitch box? That's what I would expect. And that's what he gave. That's what he delivered. 2.5 years this guy had my car. I know this is going to turn into a bit of a bitch session, but I got to get it off my chest and also let you know what I'm dealing with, you know, a little bit. There used to be a strut tower brace here. He took that off to install this very stylish work of art box that he did. One thing he did do that I kind of like is this little metal rod here to kind of hold everything in. I'm totally going to build another box and yank this piece of something out of here. These were supposed to be cut. As you can see, he was starting to make some little beauty panels there. You know, you'd think he'd have time 2.5 years later, but guess not. Then, so this isn't his fault. This is just how I got the car. Lucky me, I have most of the plastics that came with this car, but you'll see this is just really attached by carpet, and I think it's a common problem. It wears out over time. And so I need to install some hinges here. That'll be a project for the future. Maybe making a floor here, subfloor, whatever, that used to go there. Piece, you know, probably made out of this material, maybe some what looks like a laminated kind of birch or something. But anyway, just a couple of things. One thing that I did do is I put some tinted license plate covers on there. This one has the frame on the back, which for some reason looks better in the back. It looks okay, rather than in front. When I put the frame on, it looked stupid as hell. So then I just put just the tinted cover on the front, and it looks 1,000% better than what it did. But again, it does have little problems. You know, you've got your missing emblem there. I'm gonna have to fix that. this lens here is cracked and it's letting dirt in, and I think these bulbs don't work, you know, just, you know, little stuff. This does have, and this is one of the main reasons why I chose this car, it does have a swap in it. It's got a JDM B16A. This is the first gen, I believe. Let me see here if we can get a close-up of the stampings on the head. I don't know if we can or not. Oh yeah, so as you can see here, it's from 1990. So it's definitely first gen. It does have some issues here. This is one of the things I wanted him to correct, which was the, it looks to me like the cam seal is leaking. Although that does look like a newer cam seal. Maybe he did do that. Maybe it just needs to be cleaned up a little bit better. Okay, you know, maybe I'm wrong on some things, but he was supposed to do a new distributor. This is the distributor I have in here, complete with butt connector and some wiring mess here. If you look at the rubber here and how cracked and dirty it is and everything, it's not a new distributor, and I paid for a new distributor. So yeah, custom intake with zip ties, so that's really nice. He unplugged a lot of the emissions crap for the charcoal canister and whatnot. Apparently that's not needed, but I didn't ask him to do that. I would have liked to just probably had it hooked up at this point, because I'm not doing anything super serious with this car just as of yet. But yeah, there's that. Kind of cool. It has some Place Racing mounts. Place Racing, as far as I know, is out of business now. They're no longer a thing. But that was kind of neat, I thought. DC sports header. That's kind of cool. He did, however, put in a GSR, he says. This is a GSR fuel rail, apparently, and some new injectors. Apparently it needed the new injectors. When I picked this car up, though, it seemed to run fine. As a matter of fact, it ran stellar. It ran really well. I drove it over the pass immediately after I got it, within an hour of owning it, and dropped it off at his shop. Now, the plan was he was going to go through it and change the cap, rotor, plugs, wires, you know, all the maintenance stuff. Timing belt, tensioner, water pump. You'll notice that he did put a Gates belt on there, which is nice. He did a couple of things, you know, but you know, the more I think about it, you know, 2.5 years, you know, he had a lot of time to do other things, and I expected a certain level of quality, and I think I didn't even get half of that. This car actually came with LEDs in it, and I plan on upgrading these to LEDs later as well. It did not come on these wheels. It came on some really shitty, like 14x6 or 14x5 inch wheels, and they were just crap. Spray painted tweaker specials. So I got rid of those. I got the Koenig dial-in. I think it's the dial-in. It's a 15x8 with a 25 offset plus 25. And the tires are a 195 45 15 Proxys T1R. I really like these so far. They seem to grip really well. Really well, actually. With this short wheelbase, and if you're really getting on it in the corners, I've noticed that this rear end gets kind of lively. So yeah, it's you get a little bit almost an oversteer feeling, rather than, you know, your typical understeer front wheel drive characteristics, which is interesting and takes some getting used to. Let's see, what else can I say? Oh, he did apparently put some new brakes. Interesting factoid about this car, he said, was that the brakes here in the assembly is from a wagon, and they are slightly different. It's from a Civic wagon, the all-wheel drive one, apparently. But they're slightly different than all the other EFs. So this, you know, this car definitely has a history. It's interesting. But yeah, new rotors, new pads. So at least he did that. I mean, that's cool, you know. Again, this car has most of the plastics, you know. It's sad what they did here with the cutout here, you know. These cars were really cheap for a while, and people bought them and abused them and just, you know, pretty much didn't take care of them. And I would have never cut the plastics like that, but, you know, hey, this is what it is at this point. So got the buzzer working again. I had an alarm installed, and my buddy got the buzzer working again. It wasn't working when I got the car. I had some actuators put in, so I got power locks. I have some new sensors coming on the way, because apparently those are intermittent. They kind of work when they want to. They're 30 years old, so yeah. What else? The clamshell here is a little bit off. I plan on addressing that in at a later time. I did put the quick release NRG hub on here with the little spinner hub, security hub, for an added measure of security. I plan on also doing the RFID ignition with the push button. I think it's a company called JDI or JDS or something like that makes the kit. I want to do that eventually. Apparently that's on back order, so you got to order it and yeah, hurry up and wait. Gauges work, which is amazing. The tach tends to work intermittently. I did kind of try to degrease the engine a bit and wash under the hood, and it stopped working for a day, so that was fun. I'm gonna have to trace that down. I'm sure it's a bad connection somewhere, or worse, maybe the gauge is going out. I don't know, but it does work. Pretty much other than that, I only had the one incident. I do want to eventually add some fog lights. I think the fog light switch goes here. That's a thing. These old cars are so cool. There's nothing like it today. You get your little cubbies. I don't know what this is for. It's not really a change thing, but you can put little stuff in there. I don't know, but sure, it's there. Like every other CRX, this is it's got the broken in a million pieces climate control, and it just pushes in. If you try to do anything, this thing will literally sink into the dash, and that's what I'm working on today. I'm gonna work on getting that out of here, and I'll try and video and photograph my progress as I go, keep you guys updated. There are some good videos out there from some peeps that have done this, and their name escapes me at the moment, so can't really shout them out, but there's a lot of good information on the internet if you look around. But I did get it's a metal plate that goes over the top of this. I was going to buy another one, but they're like $500, and that's if you can even find one. And you know what? It's still 30-year-old plastic. You can't find a new one, so you're going to get 30-year-old plastic that's just going to do this again. So I thought, I'm going to work with what I got here, see if I can make it into what it needs to be and reinforce it, and hopefully it'll last another 30 years. We'll see. But I plan on maybe even using some fiberglass on the back to kind of reinforce the plastics. I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to address it exactly. We'll see, but I do got to get it out of there and see what I'm working with, see just how bad it is. I kind of have an idea, though. The cables are not even hooked up to this guy. I literally have the little switcher under the hood. I don't know what you would call it, but the flow for the water to go into the heater core. I just have that open, so it's as if it's on hot all the time. And then the fan switch, believe it or not, does still work. All this stuff does still work. None of it lights up. I have to get new bulbs and stuff. But yeah, like I've been driving it on just level 2 and adjusting with the windows. My climate experience in this car, so that's been fun. She doesn't like to idle when it's really cold or hot. I believe I need a new idle. What do they call that? Idle air control valve, the IACV, I think is sticking because it'll idle really super low when I first start it up and barely run, and then after a while, the idle will start to rise to what I would consider a normal cold idle, about 1500 RPM. So it leads me to believe that the IACV is just gummed up and needs some work. And so, it's an old car. It is what it is. Some things. So I have one of those on order. I did order a new distributor because someone didn't put in a new distributor that I paid for. But guys, if you take your car to a mechanic and you have some work done, have them give you back all the old parts too, just so you know what they did. So they did something, because there was a whole lot of crap that didn't get done, and 2.5 years later, I'm pissed. It's just some bullshit. And the more that I think about it, the worse it is. Really, that it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. So yeah. But anyway, I did get this deck. It's a Pioneer SPH 120 or some shit, or SPH. 10BT. It's kind of cool. It's got this thing that comes out, and then your smartphone goes in here, and it's got an app that interfaces with this and becomes the display of the stereo. Now, in concept, that was a really cool thing, and I was like, cool, you know, I killed two birds with one stone. I can use the app to control the deck, and also have a phone holder built into it, and it would be a great experience. Here's the things I don't like, though. It got a little USB here, and I got a little short cable that you plug in. But anyway, in practice, it hasn't been such a great user experience. It's been kind of maddening because it likes to default to Amazon Music, and I live on Apple Music pretty much, and I have to switch over to it all the time, and it keeps defaulting to that. I've looked for a setting to try and turn that off. On top of that, it's got 2-volt preamp outs, so not the greatest. I wanted something with 4-volt preamp outs and something with a dedicated sub. I think this just has the front and rear channels, or front and sub. I'd have to look at it again, but I had him hook it up, and take a look at this wiring. Tell me if you're impressed with this, like I am not. So back here, if I can get it open with one hand, let me get these processors were supposed to be installed. I wanted them to put those in. That didn't happen. Look at this wiring. There's no distribution block. Literally duct or electrical taped 8-gauge wire to my X1 amp here, and then he threw in this Rockford, not even mine. That's not mine. I guess it is now. But he threw that in. This is a 5-channel. I was just going to run everything off of this. Probably better. I don't know. This is a little 300-watt 2-channel bridge to 1-channel, I believe. But here's the cables for my processors, just kicking it. Here's my distribution block. I mean, look at this wiring. It looks like a kindergartner crackhead did it. Literally a kindergartner and a crackhead. Both of those things. It's like he hired somebody. He's like, hey, are you a kindergartner looking for a job? Do you smoke crack? If you said yes to both of these things, come hook up my buddy's stereo. As you notice, this plastic actually was perfect. He cut this plastic. This unobtainium plastic that you can't even find on eBay now. I did find one. It was like $700, but you had to buy the whole rear plastics. I may still do that. But, yeah, just cut the plastic. And then, here's my ground. Check out my grounds here. I don't know if you can see that. Literally just scrape the paint off, and there's like several screws in there. No distro block, just several screws, just screwed right into the body. This is something a newbie would probably do. I'm not impressed with that. I don't think I should be. But yeah, this is kind of my idea. There's not a lot of room in here. I'm kind of gonna have to mount these processors sideways like that. Well, the one is, the epicenter is gonna have to be sideways. But anyway, yeah. So, not impressed with that. There's a lot of things I'm not impressed with. The car did come with this ugly ass, I don't know, some sort of cover on the e-brake. I don't know why anybody would do that, but this is part of what happened in the 2000s, the early 2000s, when these cars weren't worth much. It's kind of sad, you know, a car comes out, it's worth X amount of dollars, and then, you know, I mean, it's got a value to it, and then that value goes down, it depreciates, and then, you know, it kind of will reach a peak of a valley where it's not worth much for quite some time, which was the case with these cars. And so people with no money bought them and just put the cheapest crap on them and just really rotted them out. And so it's hard to find a nice example. And I think this is, you know, even with its problems, still a very nice example. Even the sunroof works, which is amazing. This works. Apparently this is one of those things that doesn't work on many CRXs, but mine works. All the dash lights work, like I said. The sensors even work. There's, you know, for now, not any problems with the seat belts and whatnot. What else was I going to say? Oh, so it does have the typical shifter issue where it's in gear now. it's got a lot of play. I mean, I'm actually used to it now, but I don't want to drive something and have to get used to it. I don't want it to stay that way. So I am going to be addressing that and refurbishing it in some way. I haven't figured out exactly what I want to do. I have an idea, but yeah. Interesting though, I do believe this is probably an original shift boot, and it just speaks to the quality of how things used to be made. There's no tears or rips in it whatsoever, and it's probably not even real leather. Let me shut this door so you're not, it's probably not even real leather, but it's probably pleather, but it's held up for 30 years. I have a 2018 10th gen Accord manual, and the shift boot already needs to be replaced because it's got a crack in it. So, I mean, something to be said for that. And they don't make them like this anymore, man. They really don't. They're not going to ever make it like this again. It's a tiny little car. It's a hoot to drive. You forget how small these things are, and then you get in one, and it's so small, it kind of feels dangerous. You're looking up at everything, but it's also part of the excitement factor, right? So, you know, I'm really glad that I got it back home, you know, at least, and we can start, you know, giving it the love it deserves, you know, bringing it back from the dead, so to speak. I think there's a lot of guys out there that have love for these EFs, and I get it. Like, I always go back to them too. It's, I think, the golden age of Honda, really. Early 90s, late 80s stuff is probably my favorite. What else can I say? Oh, Clockworks, the vents are in good condition. I lucked out there. And then you'll notice it does have the typical, as I started to say, the wiper problem. And this is the bushings or whatever in the wiper arm transmission pieces wear out. And so this is how much play they have. This was me just literally getting on the freeway and kind of doing a downshift to third and giving her what she got. And literally the air just blew them up that far. That's how much they move. Literally, you got a lot of play there. So I got to get in there and replace those, and hopefully I can find them. So yeah, that's another thing I got to take care of. It does have, I believe, Kiko Alumina shocks. I don't know what kind of springs. I haven't really got in there and looked at those. This is the piece in question I was talking about. The IACV, I believe, is sticking. I'm going to get rid of all these stupid capped off vacuum lines and crap. I mean, they're not even capped off. Literally a screw in there. Come on, give me a break. But yeah. So yeah. So there's some things that need to be addressed. But overall, I'm happy. I mean, this is what I wanted. It's a great car. Got big plans for it. So stay tuned and see what happens. All right, peace.